To everybody. Can you all hear me clearly? If you can hear me clearly, please type yes in the chat window. I can't see any yes from the participants, so I assume that none of you can hear me. Okay, perfect. All right. So, very good afternoon, warm good afternoon to all of you. I know summer has started in India, and even in Bangalore, it's getting kind of hot these days. The temperature rises up to 35 degrees in the day and then falls back to like 17 degrees in the evening. Net result is, in my honest opinion, more money for doctors. Not necessarily dentists, but good money for doctors. A lot of cases of influenza or flu, and not to forget swine flu that's going on right now. So today, first of all, thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule. You know, I've been a dentist, I've been a practicing dentist in the past. I know how tough our lives are. And one of the reasons that me and Dr. Mayur had decided on this time and this day was because probably this time is pretty light. You know, the afternoon time in a private practice, especially, not too many patients, and give you a boost just before you head into probably the busiest day of the week, that is Saturday. A lot of people are on holiday and they schedule their dental appointments. So the objective today and for the next I think 7 to 8 weeks or 9 weeks, depending on how long the course is essentially to introduce all of you to social media, right? And I'm not very clear on what is your proficiency on social media, and after today's session I'll probably circulate a questionnaire to some of you through Mayur to get a deeper understanding as I go on structuring this course. But this is a very basic course that I do it in dental colleges, and I do it with some medical institutions as well. And the essence is to introduce you to the concept of social media, to get you interested on why you should be doing it, especially in India, and finally to give you some perspectives on some best practices. Going forward, all of our sessions will be very hands-on. You know, one thing as dentists, you know that all of us are very hands-on. You know, we can't just write a prescription, we have to do the work as well. Unlike our medical counterparts, some of our medicine counterparts. So all the sessions are going to be very hands-on, right? We're going to create a lot of social media entities. We're going to start leveraging using social media. We're going to kick things off. So all the sessions are going to be very hands-on going forward. Today's session, not that much, because I'm just trying to introduce you to the concepts. So come, be very, very prepared that from next session onwards, you'll be on your computers, on your internet, you'll be opening accounts, you'll be learning best practices, and you'll be doing a lot of experiments, right? And I don't think that, you know, at our stage in our life, we need any more gyan. I think there's a lot of gyan out there. We don't need gyan, we need some practical experience, we need some practical getting our hands dirty kind of stuff, right? So this course is a very basic course. It is aligned a lot to dentists. Now the dental surgeons or a dental practice is very different from the rest of medicine, right? Because essentially, if you look at from a business standpoint, I will say most dental institutions, dental practices, dental clinics fall under small and medium industries. Mostly small, and there are some medium, you know, who have chains or who have a lot of dental chairs under their control. So the tactics I'm going to talk about essentially are the ones that consultants worldwide use to coach small businesses. And when I look at a dental clinic today, thanks to my education and my background, and we'll come to that in some time, I can never see just a practice. What I see is a small local business. And in each one of you, I see a very, very focused, very highly specialized a dental entrepreneur. Because all of you are essentially dentists who are running their own businesses, right? Unless you're working for somebody else. but still you must be doing some amount of private practice, some amount of consultation. So these tactics are essentially aimed at you increasing your business. If you follow what I'm telling you to some extent, and again, I don't have all the answers. I always say that I have a perspective on social media. I don't have an answer. If you follow some of these strategies, some of these tactics, you will see a delta X increase in your business, right? But it's important that you keep your mind open, throw out misconceptions, get active, get engaged, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat window immediately, and Mayur will help me understand the question and send it out to me. At the same time, get engaged, apply what you're learning here, ask questions. If you have confusion, stop me right there and then, and let's make it a very, very interactive course, right? I think dental education is recording this webinar, so obviously this will be available on demand as well. So just wanted to give you that caveat. So moving on, this is a little bit about me. I did my BDS from College of Dental Surgery, Manipal in 1999. And to be honest, I had no idea what I was doing from a business perspective. And the interesting thing is, the time I finished my practice, two things were happening in, I finished my education, two things were happening in India. One was mobile phones had entered India, and we saw the first big, I don't know how many of you remember that time or are young enough like me to have seen the Motorola brick phones that used to come earlier. And so mobile phones had come into India, and internet had come into India. You have to have a MTNL or a BSNL dial-in, and you dial in and you connect to the internet. And those were fundamental shifts in the Indian economy, right? Mobility and telecom, and to an extent the internet, which kind of revolutionized India as a country. And today we probably are where we are because of these two things. But at that time, I had no idea about all this. As a matter of fact, in 2002, I distinctly remember going up to a friend of mine who used to work for HCL, and I still tell him this joke. And I asked him, you know what, you have to teach me how to use the computer. And he was like, not, because he was advanced and he was coding and he was a techie, he was slightly worried that, I'm going to waste a lot of his time. And finally he opened the computer and he logged on to Yahoo, and he said, you're on the internet, go and surf where you want. And I had no idea where to go either. So the biggest challenge we face as dentists is that, things have changed, I know, things have changed to a great extent today, but still, we are not really taught how to leverage technology for growing our practices. We have intraoral cameras, and we have fiber optic, we have lasers, and we have stuff like that, but not necessarily leveraging technology to grow our business, to grow our practice, to make it a more efficient, lean, mean practice. I think that is the biggest challenge, and that's the challenge I faced right from 99 to 2005. For almost 6 years, I experimented, did lots of weird things. We created our own, dental management system, which was a software. We created we used intraoral cameras and stuff like that. Very, very amateurish, very early stage of all these technologies, and most of them failed. But that got me very intrigued into business. I gave my CAT in 2004. Entered IMT Ghaziabad in 2005, and since then I've been working for CSC, IBM, Wipro, and now I would say I'm relatively more comfortable with technology. But I've also started the application of technology for my fellow dentists, right? For the medical education, for the medical field towards doctors and dentists in general. So some other things you should need to know about me. Absolutely, that I blog very extensively. I play tennis, at least I try to play tennis on the weekends whenever I find time. And I support Manchester United, so the easiest way to irritate me is to support, say you're a Chelsea or an Arsenal supporter, and there we go, the relationship is off. So that about me. Any questions or clarifications you have before we begin? Any expectation setting, anything that you would want to tell me before we start off? I'll just give a pause for a few seconds. Mayur, if there's anything that you're getting, let me know. Okay. All right, so I'm assuming there's nothing at this stage. You're all open. You all have no expectations as such. That's which is good. And so let's start off with why social media and why for dental surgery, right? Before we get into that, I want to dispel some myths. There are some misconceptions about social media. There are some misconceptions about the use of social media. And I want to be upfront and dispel them. First and foremost, social media is not free. Those of you who assume that, yeah, it's free, Facebook has a free account, Twitter has a free account, Google Plus has a free account, what is he talking about? It is free. We don't have to pay anything. Yes, you don't pay anything from a transaction perspective in currency, but remember that you are spending time on social media, especially when you work towards growing your practice on social media, creating your business awareness on social media. So in your case, time equals money, and as you are spending time on social media, it's not free, right? Social media is not free. You end up spending time, depending on how much time you want to spend on it. So even if you spend like half an hour a day, you're still spending some money on it. Number two, when you log in and you create your profile, etc., a lot of these companies like Facebook or Twitter, they actually leverage your data, they see your data, and they kind of help other organizations or other institutions market to you, sell to you. So in a way, your free login is a barter of your information for some freebie, like a free login. So just get it out of your head that social media is free. It's not free. Number two, people think it's complicated. Well, it's not that complicated. Social media as a name might be a new concept, maybe 10 years old or 15 years old, but the principles of social media have existed for years. For years, right from the old days, where you saw people using sign language, people using pictographs, and today you have the same fun on Pinterest. You have a few diagrams strung together. You see on temples, you see carvings in old forts, and the same thing you see on infographics on Twitter or Facebook. You see pictures on Pinterest, you see pictures on Instagram, and it's the same paintings that you see in Ajanta or Ellora. So it's not very different. It is not complicated. Only the medium has changed. Now social is being delivered through digital media. That's all. Otherwise, conceptually, social media has not changed, and we are we're naturally very comfortable with it for years, right? And third, social media is risky. This complaint I hear from a lot of people who say, why should anybody find out what I'm doing? First of all, if you have something to hide, that you're doing something illegal, if you're doing something that's wrong, unethical, then I think social media is not for you. And I would strongly discourage you from doing anything on social, because word gets around very fast. But if you are running a clean practice, you're running an ethical practice, you're following all the rules, regulations, IDA guidelines, I don't think it's risky at all. If and only if you have something to hide, when social media gets risky. On the other hand, I would say social is a great platform for you to project what you want to be known for. Whatever you may be, or whatever your practice may be, but you want to position it in a certain way, I think social is a great tool. Risky only if you have something to hide. So first of all, social media is not free. Second, it's very simple. It's a very simple game. It's not complicated at all. I wanted to get those three things out of the way. Secondly, see, what has happened over the last 20 years in India, and particularly the last 10 years due to the growth of internet, is that we are living in a highly disruptive world. When I say disruptive, the greatest example I have is about 10 years ago when I was at IMT. One of the popular case studies we used to read were Nokia. Guess what? The company doesn't exist today. We used to read about Motorola. Well, the company doesn't exist today. We used to read about Blockbuster video rental stores. I don't think that company exists today either, or it does in a very small form. What has happened over the years, the last 10 years, 15 years at least, is that digital has kind of disrupted a lot of things, right? And some of the things that are very popular have actually disappeared. And it holds true for even for dentistry, right? I mean, when I was in Manipal, people used to have transparencies, with felt marker. People used to write on transparencies and project it onto screens. Who does that anymore? That's all dead. People use projectors, and there are such high resolution projectors available today that you don't even need a projector. You can actually technically just screen it right from your laptop. You don't even need to technically project anything. The other good example which I want to tell you about is Uber. Now, I don't know how many of you use Uber, and those in Delhi especially will be very familiar with the name for all the wrong reasons. But Uber is a company that uses technology through mobile phone, through internet, and is disrupting the very essence of independent India, right? They are the auto rickshaws. The auto rickshaws are under threat. So technically what used to happen is when I used to go from here to MG Road, I would usually take an auto rickshaw because there is no parking in MG Road. Parking is a big issue. And if I take an auto, it costs about 250 to 300 rupees depending on his mood and how he wants to drive, and etc. etc. But with Uber, it costs about 200 rupees now. It's highly discounted, but it's still cheaper. The taxi is available whenever I want. All I have to do is click on the app. I don't even have to pay because the payment happens through Paytm in India. So all I need to do is have money in my Paytm account. Just so the message for all of us here as dentists is that we need to keep up with technology. And today the world has moved to social, so we need to keep up with technology, or we will just disappear. We will disappear like Motorola, we'll disappear like Nokia. And I'll give you good examples of how some organizations have leveraged technology better than others. As we go along this course, we will also look at some best practices for leveraging technology. But right now, the objective is just to give you an overview, right? So you might be asking me, hey, you know what, this guy comes out of somewhere, he wakes us up in the afternoon, talks about, technology, that talks about disruption, talks about his experience, he talks about Uber. Now, how does it affect dentists? Dentists are, obviously immune to everything, and it's not that I'm really bothered about what Uber does to auto rickshaws, or why Nokia was sold to Motorola, Nokia was sold to Microsoft, etc. So how does that affect me? Now, the important thing is to know that I did some analysis on how dentists leverage social media. How do they fare on social media? And I did not find an India-specific report, which is interesting because it gives us an option to create one. And Mayur, I think we should think about that next. Create a report for India-based social media adoption among dentists. But I found a global report. They had some respondents from India, and the stats were very, very interesting. And this was a survey done by an American company, which was, I think, funded by 3M. But the research was done by a lot of across dentists across the world. The areas they covered were US, they covered UK, they covered Germany, they covered India, and they covered Singapore and a few other countries, and Japan. And the results were very interesting, and you might you might feel you might feel at home looking at the results. So this is how the results were set up. So almost 40% of dentists who are polled. Okay, so let me give you the caveat. It's not that 40% of dentists worldwide. This is 40% of dentists who responded to the survey. And this survey is done only last year, I think 2014. Around 40% are not on social media, right? So if today we have 14 people on this webinar, I can easily say that 5 of you are not on social media. Is that correct? Is everybody on social, or is there somebody who's not on any social channel on this webinar? Okay, no response so far, so I'm assuming all 14 of you are on social media in some form or the other, which is fascinating, which is actually mind-blowing. But according to the survey, almost 40%, that means if this was applied to all of you here, out of the 14 of us here, 5 were not on social media at all. Sorry. 35% had a page or had like a proper page, like a LinkedIn page or a Facebook page, or had a proper professional page. And the remaining 25% just had a profile, which again, difference I want to point out. Okay, Dr. Darshita says she's only on Facebook. Okay, but again, what I want to ask you is, are you on, is it your personal profile or a professional profile? Is it like the individual, where you have your friends, family, kids, or if you're married with children, all of them link there, where you share where you've been and which restaurant you're at and things like that. So that's 25% of the people here who are on, who have a profile, right? The remaining people, 40% don't have anything, and 35% have professional profiles. That means they have a page either on Facebook or on LinkedIn, which is used to promote their business. So right now the gap is around 65% globally, which is huge. And I'm not sure how we fare in India, but I think our results should be somewhat similar. Okay, so Dr. Yogesh, you are on Facebook, you have an FB page, you have a Google Plus page, and you have a LinkedIn page. We are awesome because you're then on the 35% who are ahead, right? Good. What about the rest? I can hear only from 2 of them. The rest, are you 40%, 35%, 25%? How are you guys doing? Dr. Aparna, when you say yes there, you mean, okay, you are 25%, fine. Dr. Aparna, you said yes there, so you mean you're on what? You have a profile? That means you are 25%? Okay, you have a page too. That's interesting. That's very good. That's 2 out of the 14. I mean, the rest of us also, I think me and Mayur also have pages. That makes us 4. So if we hit the number of 5, then we are lying in the same range as this survey, which is interesting. Okay, Dr. Dinesh has a Facebook page and a Google Plus page. Now, when I say page, I want to be very clear. This is your professional page, not your personal page. So if you have a professional page, you're on 35%. You are on personal page, that means you have 25%. And if you're not on social media, 40%. Okay, very good. So I think we are, in this survey, we are slightly skewed, in this group at least, I think we are slightly skewed. It's maybe not the true representation of where India is, because you've deliberately chosen a Facebook, a social media training webinar, but it pretty much gives you an idea of how much the gap is, right? And okay, you have a page but not updating regularly. Okay, so that's a problem we'll come to later. In one of the sessions we're going to talk about frequency for all the channels. We're going to do a frequency of all the channels, best practices, everything. So yeah, that's a good problem, Dr. Aparna. Just keep that in your head or write it down somewhere, and when we come to frequency, I will definitely take this up, right? Okay, great to see so many of us. Dr. Darshita is also on 35%. Wow, great. So we are slightly more advanced as for the data within this group as for the global data, which is interesting. So exciting, very exciting to know that all of us feel passionately about social. Some of us are advanced, but for the benefit of those who are not very advanced, I'm going to still go at a rate which everybody picks up slowly. I'm not going to rush through things. So keep these questions coming, keep the conversation coming, and if there's any question you want me to clarify, let me know as I move to the next slide. Now, there are 2 aspects to social media, right? One was presence, which we just discussed in the first statistic from the global survey. The second is engagement. Now, out of the 60% who were on social media, either in the form of a profile or had a professional presence, 90% of the people on their pages, on their professional pages or personal pages, just have their visiting card information replicated. That means this is out of that 60%, 90%, that is vast majority. So if there were 100 people and only 60 had some kind of social presence, then almost 56 of them just repeated what they had on their visiting cards on their social profiles. They had their name, maybe the number of degrees they had, their phone numbers, where was the clinic located, their specialty, things like that. That's all. So we call it visiting card information, which I technically don't need a social media page for that. I can just take a visiting card, take a digital copy of it and put it up on the internet. That should be enough. Now, out of that 60%, 50% actually talk about their specialities and keep it updated. Now here's where Dr. Aparna, you had an issue that you are not keeping your page updated. So only 50% of that 60%, original 60%, were actually keeping people engaged through some kind of analysis, through some kind of discussions. And very few, less than 35% actually, used it to network with other dentists, which is a very big thing. You know, most of us do not leverage social media for networking. And when I say networking, I mean not the IDA dinners or the state, dental association dinners and cocktail nights, which all of us get invited to once in a while as part of a conference. But I'm talking about networking with, say, a dentist in Japan or a dentist in the US or a dentist in France. And we never leverage social media to kind of drop those international boundaries which have existed for years and start collaborating with other dentists. So it's a big task, and a lot of us have dental groups on Facebook, mostly our alumni groups, and some of us do discuss, and I've seen a lot of discussion about cases among the alumni group, which I'm slightly out of touch with because of my new role, but still we don't use it as extensively as we should. So this was a finding from the survey. I'm not saying that this is applicable to us, but in a way we are representative of what the survey states. And going forward, maybe in a few months time, me and Mayur will try to do one specific to India, and let's see if it comes out. We will definitely share those results with you, right? Any questions before I move on? Okay, no questions? Let me move on to our next topic. Now, when you think about social in the future, so Dr. Sangyogita, you are asking how to link patients, PTS's patients to your page? Okay, so see, a page works slightly different, and I'm going to take a small detour. Obviously, we'll discuss this in detail when we discuss Facebook and LinkedIn. But a page is slightly different from a profile. In a profile, you can add, connections, right? And somebody sends you a friend request, or you send somebody a friend request, they accept, and you can see each other and what you're doing. But the only way to engage somebody on a page is either through likes or through comments. I think there was a move to increase that. Facebook is looking at other ways in which they can show engagement. Long ago, they used to have a system called poke, where you could poke people, but today, I think they have withdrawn that feature long ago. there is no poke, there is like and there is comment, and there is going to be another feature saying sell to or refer to or something like that, which is a new feature that's going to come up. But those are the only engagement features you have on a page, especially a professional page. So you cannot technically see the other person's profile, but whoever likes your page, gets updates from your page, can see your page and see what's happening on your page. Does that help you? Okay, it does not help you. In the sense that does that explain the situation? What is it that you're trying to achieve? I mean, if I can go one step below, what do you want to achieve by, what do you mean by engage a patient on a page? So how do you know that your patient is on Facebook? Interesting. One thing you can do is, I mean, I don't know if all of you, if a lot of you use dental records or you collect patient information as part of a regular practice. If you do, then you can, obviously have an online form that can be filled through a tablet while the patient is waiting at the reception, and you can have fields for them to put in their Facebook account if you are keen, or as part of your prescription, you can also say like us on Facebook, like my page on Facebook, or just say that you get some benefit out of it, or you get a free calendar or a diary if you engage with us on Facebook or things like that. So you can create some incentive, and by that way your patient knows that you have a Facebook page and likes you on Facebook, and that's probably the best way. The other way is to obviously collect that data up front, through a tablet or even through a diary if you use a pen and paper system, and just collect the social information as well. As a matter of fact, this is going to be one of my recommendations in the end of the session, to kind of collect social information from your patients, which is publicly available, and if it's not too much for them to ask them to like you on Facebook or follow you on Twitter and things like that. Okay. Okay. You have more patients from Google page. Yeah. So Dr. Yogesh, you must be a case study, because in popular social media parlance, we call Google Plus as ghost town, because it is all set up and there are a lot of people who are having discussions, but not necessarily the volumes that some of the other sites like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn have. So Google has a lot of profiles. I haven't seen too many businesses. When you say Google page, what do you mean by Google page? You mean from a Google search? Okay, no. Yeah, I think we are talking about two different things, Dr. Yogesh. Google search is more about, it's more about digital marketing. We are talking essentially social media marketing. So which is a subset of digital marketing. See, Google is a giant, and when you have to talk about digital marketing, we have to talk about on-page optimization, text optimization, off-page optimization, search engine optimization, things like that. Okay, so you're saying, okay, all right. So for the benefit of others, just summarize this discussion. We were talking about how whether Facebook page can be used for patient engagement and how it can be used, right? So one or two of the ideas I gave were, you can probably collect that information up front and then send the person information about your page and ask him to like it. Or you incentivize your patient to like it by saying, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook, and you'll get some freebie, like a diary or a pen or something like a calendar or something like that. Now, Dr. Yogesh, came up with a theory that his Facebook page does not give him as many patients or as many responses as Google. Now Google, so let's not get confused between Google and social media. Google is massive. The only area where Google actually works in social media are YouTube and Google Plus, right? And to an extent Blogger. Essentially Google probably controls all of internet today, and access to internet is through a Google search. And there the tactics and the strategies are very, very different. Here we're essentially talking about social media. We're not talking about digital marketing, which will cover Google, right? Just for this clarification. Now, anyway, so coming back to, I hope that was useful. Otherwise, we'll definitely cover that, once we take on, this topic in detail. But when you look at social media, from now on, I want you to think about it as a Rubik cube. A Rubik cube, where you know how a Rubik cube works, right? All the color sides have to be same, and the best guys can crack it within 2 minutes or something. They know how to do it. It's essentially a skill of memory and skill of anticipation. But this Rubik cube, for your benefit, will have different blocks, and each block is a social media channel. Now, are all of them, I mean, how many social media channels are there? Does anybody have any idea? Rough guess. How many social media channels and platforms are available to us today? Does anybody want to take a wild guess? Yeah, okay. Somebody said 5 and somebody said 25 and thousands. Yeah, the actual number should be in thousands, because if you start calculating the number of local social media channels that exist, for example, none of the no, Dr. Moise, it should be more than 20. It has to be in the thousands. Because if you look at China, for example, none of the popular social media channels that we use in India are actually available in China due to censorship, and essentially they are a communist country, right? So the count is in thousands, vernacular ones, local ones, the ones in English itself, there will be more than 500, 600 of them. But are all of them applicable to us? No. I think we essentially may not use more than 7 to 8 channels today as we speak, as dentists. You may want to use something extra, but I would say 7 to 8 channels are the utmost, at best, what you would be using. And in the next slide, I will explain how do I best explain those channels through one very interesting example that I found in one of the presentations made by Avaya Media, and it was a very interesting depiction of each social channel, and we're going to look at it. But in your case, I want you to from now on think of social as a Rubik cube, right? And that face, one face, which will have 9 channels roughly, is kind of the areas that you want to focus on as far as driving your dental practice. And that is the only phase you should worry about. The rest of them are either inessential or not important, and you can't be on every channel. So concentrate on those few channels, focus heavily on them, and focus on engagement, right? That will be my advice. But think about this, they say picture says 1,000 words. So think about this picture every time you have to think about your social media strategy, right? If you go on to the next slide, this is the video this is the slide I was talking about. It's not a video, sorry. So this is a very interesting way of depicting what each social media channel can do. Some of these channels you may not be familiar with, but I will explain to you because these are some of the most important channels, and at least 2 of these channels are not available in India, but they have equivalents in this country as well of those channels. So if you look at the most popular channel, obviously Facebook Facebook, essentially, what people use it for is stating an opinion, like I like my cat, or I am doing this. Now on Twitter, the concept of I like my cat, which extends across time, now is shrunk to a moment that, I mean, Twitter just generally, the shelf life of a tweet is very, very short. It's about 20 seconds, 25 seconds, and then it disappears. So I'm playing with my cat is more like at this moment what is happening in your business. That's what Twitter is used for, right? Now YouTube, on the other hand, is probably one of the most underrated but the most advantageous channel for you as a dentist, and I will come back to it later when we go into the details of YouTube. But YouTube is more about showing a scenario, like watch this video of my cat. It could be showing a procedure, or showing an implant, or showing a before and after, or just talking about how you are approaching a case. So YouTube is a lot of show and do, very, very important. I think it's a very important channel. Now LinkedIn is essentially bragging about your skills. It's where you state your skills up front. So I can do this, I can do that, or I am very good at this, I am highly capable at that, my practice can do this. So LinkedIn is mostly a capability card that you use in order to tell the world what your capabilities are. Instagram, which is the fourth one, I hope you can see it, not very popular in India. It's popular in India, it's got about 5 million users. Not that popular in businesses, but very important for younger crowds. I think a lot of younger kids love Instagram. They use Instagram. I think a lot of celebrities use Instagram. It may not feature very highly in our list, and we'll discuss more about that in our subsequent sessions. Now this is one of the most important channels as far as pictures are concerned. Pinterest, where you can create boards and you can create pins, is a very important channel. I have seen a lot of Indian businesses use Pinterest. So let's have a small quiz now. Okay, so Dr. Yogesh says that he has YouTube videos and a Twitter account, but not very active on it. Yeah, see, this is I would say that it's a question of understanding what works and how you want to project yourself. I totally understand Twitter actually does not require much time, and on the other hand YouTube requires much more time, where you have to explain a lot of things. But at the same time, I feel that if your strategy is, if your practice, for example, and sorry for the others, I digress slightly, but if you want to show your practice as something that specializes in a complicated surgery or a complex procedure, or you have something that you can show, and just by showing you can leverage that much more better, your effect is much more, then I think YouTube is a great opportunity that you're missing out on, and it is for you to decide. But we will in the end come up with a strategy map for each one of you, so which you will build yourself. So let's see how YouTube features on your list, right? Now I have a pop quiz for everybody. And this is something that I found out when I was doing a social media session for, I think for Avagma, right? I don't know if you were on that session or not. I used to do this social media marketing session for professionals, working professionals. And during one of those sessions, while preparing for a session, I came across a very interesting statistic about Pinterest. Now the question for all of you, and this is a pop quiz, and everybody has to answer, is among Indian businesses, in India, which industry is most active on Pinterest? And please don't cheat, please don't go to Pinterest and check right now, but take a wild guess. It's pictures, it's a lot of pictures. Which industry, in your opinion, is the most active on Pinterest? Answers. Suresh, I think you have your hands raised. Is there any specific? Okay. I don't know. Bollywood, clothing, no idea. Fashion, don't know. Healthcare. No, sir. Healthcare. If healthcare had been number one, then we wouldn't have this discussion. Nah? You would be teaching me about Pinterest. Bollywood, wildlife, no idea. Okay. I mean, actually, it's an industry that all of us have used at least, or have used, or are going to use at least once in our life. Hopefully, once in our life. I mean, there's some of us who are lucky have used it more than once. No trips. I mean, come on, all of us go on trips every year. I know dentists are workaholic, but this is like terrible. Okay, so I'll give the answer, and you guys are really honest. All of us are, I think dentists are very honest lot. We don't cheat. The answer is the Indian wedding industry. The Indian marriage industry, wedding industry, uses Pinterest a lot. So next time you want to check for a wedding, you want to get a sherwani done, or get some, or want to get buy something for somebody's wedding, maybe your own wedding. Go to Pinterest. They have amazing pictures on wedding dresses, on cards, decorations, flower arrangements. Pretty phenomenal. I would recommend all of you to have a look, because this is one industry that has leveraged Pinterest very well, right? Okay, Suresh, you have your hands raised. Is there a question that you want to ask? Okay. All right. Anyway, so that was Pinterest. Now these are some of the channels that you might not be familiar with, so I will just clarify. Yelp is more about food ratings, not applicable to us technically. Similar to Zomato. Zomato is actually a competitor for Yelp. Google Plus, this is a joke that Google Plus and Dr. Yogesh, that's why I got confused when you said Google, because people feel Google Plus is like a ghost town, right? And there are not enough people on Google Plus. Actually, nothing ever happens there. There are some very few discussions, some likes. I know whenever our Prime Minister posts something on Google Plus, he gets 3,500 pluses. But apart from that, nothing really happens there. And over the last, I think, at least 3 or 4 years that I've been on Google Plus, I haven't found it useful, except when you post something on Google Plus, your Google ranking slightly increases, and when you search on Google for you, it rates up much higher. Okay, moving on to this. Does anybody know what this is? No, okay, no idea. Okay, so this is a tough one actually. This is called Spotify. It is a Swedish company which makes streaming music. It kind of understands your mood, understands your preferences, and plays you music that you like. Not available in India. If any of you have a chance to go to the US or Europe, you can get a Spotify account, and I think then it still works in India. Uses the internet. Not available in India as of now. Netflix, any form of streaming service is not available in India because of Information of Broadcasting's IB Ministry's very strong guidelines. Then finally, this is Foursquare. At one time, it was considered the Facebook of local search. As fallen off the grid of late, I have seen people disappearing from it as well. So these are kind of the most important channels, especially Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. Apart from that, we will discuss Instagram and Pinterest. We may discuss Google Plus, but we are not going to discuss Foursquare. We are not going to discuss Spotify. We are not going to discuss Yelp. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this probably is the group that you should be concentrating on most. Some of you who want to take are more adventurous can try this. Some of you for academic interest, we can focus on this, but it's, I think, a channel which is not worth spending too much time on, right? Okay, Dr. Yogesh, I will check your Google Plus page. So you are getting leads from here. You're saying you're getting clients from here, right? I'll check it out later after the session. All right, let's move on. Now, just to give you a background on some of these channels, we're going to look at each channel and see what is happening on that channel with an Indian perspective, right? Now, since I made this slide, we would have added a few more thousand, maybe a million. Okay, good. So we might have a few million more Twitter users, but roughly Twitter globally has about 500 million users, and out of that 300 million users, and out of that 33 million are from India. We have a large Twitter base, and a vast majority of our Twitter users use it through the mobile phone. So nobody technically goes to a desktop client to use Twitter. It used to be very popular at one time. Still is in a way. A lot of modern thinkers feel that Twitter has replaced the telegraph. I mean, you remember, at least I remember when I used to give my 10th standard board exams and all, my grandparents will send me a telegram, all the very best and things like that. And it was a very short, very precise message, and if you read some of the older books or watch Sherlock Holmes, there's a lot of use of the telegraph there, especially the older movies. I think a couple of years ago, Department of Telecom in India, the post office actually has stopped telegrams now. They no longer send telegrams. So the service in India is kind of dead. But at one time it used to be cutting edge. And Twitter, they say, has replaced the telegraph in many ways, because the 140 characters, very short, precise messages. Twitter has some very interesting characteristics, and I want to discuss a few of them with you before I move on to the next one. Okay. Twitter has about, it is the most non-reciprocal social network. When I say non-reciprocal social network, what I mean is that you may follow somebody on Twitter, like you may follow Shah Rukh Khan on Twitter, but it's not necessary that he will follow you, right? But you still can be in some kind of connection, because you can still message him, and if you refer to his handle, he can still see you, but he will not follow you. In the UK, they did some analysis on the influence of people on Twitter, and they found out that almost 75% of the influence on Twitter can be traced back to 2000 handles. The handle is at so and so. That is a handle. So it's a very non-reciprocal network. That means people don't really follow, unlike Facebook, where you need to follow each other to know each other. Twitter, you don't need to do that. At one time, it was very, very popular. Of late, there have been a lot of questions on its use, especially for business. They have started ads on Twitter. They do promoted tweets. They make some money through all that, but it hasn't really picked up. There are always questions on whether this is the platform, or is it going to exist, or is it going to go off. Still a very effective platform for announcements, for creating some kind of buzz. If you want immediate viral buzz about something hot or some new announcement, Twitter is still very popular. Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Sangyogita is asking if no Twitter, then it's fine. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. I don't see much usage, especially in these terms, but there are certain features of Twitter that are very useful, and we will discuss that when we do the Twitter session, and then you can rethink whether you want Twitter or not, right? Okay, moving on to LinkedIn. Now LinkedIn is a professional network. I think it is a very smart network. It makes a profit. It has revenues of about 2.5 billion, mostly come from HR, job search, things like that, recruitment. But they have a robust service now coming out of marketing and marketing related activities. The advantage of LinkedIn is that it has a very strong algorithm. Those of you who are in areas which has a large Indian corporate population, or have patients who are essentially corporate people, you will find LinkedIn very useful, because almost anybody in corporate is there on LinkedIn. India has, I think we have more than 28 million users now. We form the second largest population on LinkedIn after US. So you will see in subsequent in all the messages nowadays, you see a lot of focus on India and LinkedIn. Almost 300 users worldwide, and India is the second largest base. Now the advantage of LinkedIn is there are a lot of healthcare and dental groups on LinkedIn. There are a lot of discussion forums on these topics, and there is a lot of consensus available on LinkedIn. If you are targeting a lot of consensus discussions, getting to know, or you have a large patient base which essentially works in corporate India, I think your presence on LinkedIn is very, very important, right? And Dr. Yogita, to your earlier question, on Twitter, sorry, on a lighter note, I forgot to mention that if you have any celebrities as your patients, then you should be on Twitter. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. So celebrities use Twitter a lot. So if you have any film stars as your patients, you can do two things. One is get on Twitter, and second is call me when someone famous is coming. I might take a photograph or autograph if possible. Okay, Dr. Yogesh, you say you have very few patients from LinkedIn. How to increase the number? Yeah, we can discuss that later. I think LinkedIn is I think it's a very useful tool. Very interesting algorithm it has. You can target people by various ways. So I don't think we usually utilize this very well, but good question, and we'll come back to it when we focus on LinkedIn. How is LinkedIn and patient related? See, so your patient is a human being, and he has to have a profession, right? And this is not especially applicable to prosthodontics, especially when you have older patients. Sorry, it's like the same profession. I didn't get the question. You mean? So it may not be applicable to prosthodontics, where you have older patients who may have retired, not so active, but anybody who's young, active. If you have a patient base that's like that, again, I think you should capture this information upfront when you register a patient. Do you have a LinkedIn profile, and do you have a Twitter profile, do you have a Facebook profile? It gives you an idea where your patients are, and you can focus on that. So that's one of the inputs that we would use to develop your strategy in the future. So if you have a very young patient crowd which works and which works in corporate India, I think your presence on LinkedIn is very important. Again, just to reiterate, the objective of a strategy for social media is to be present where your customers are present, or customers is a wrong term. I would say where your patients are present, and also patient parties and patient influencers are present. It's very, very important, and I'll come to those two in some time. So if you have a young patient base which works in corporate India, I think you should absolutely have to be on LinkedIn. Okay. So Dr. Yogesh, you seem to have invested a lot in social. I don't know who's advising you on all this, or you've done it on your own, but I think we should have a deeper discussion later. But it's good you have a premium account, but I'm not talking about an individual account. I'm talking about creating something slightly more. I will discuss with you. Next. All right, Pinterest. Okay, this is a channel dominated by women. Okay, So for all my male dentists, dental friends, this is a totally woman-dominated channel, and a lot of fashion, as I said, from India, a lot of wedding and wedding bridal jewelry and bridal makeup and bridal clothes and bridal everything. So this is a heavily dominated, I think 75% or 80% of this channel is dominated by women. If you are in cosmetic dentistry, teeth whitening, okay, sure. So if you are in any of those fields, I think it is important, especially if you are in endodontics and cosmetic surgery. I think it's a great place for you to be in, just to show the before and after photographs. Very useful. Not so much useful tooth jewelry. Yes, absolutely. Tooth jewelry, dental tattoos. If you're in that field, this is the place to be. Again, depends what are your capability and where your when your patient base lies, right? I technically like it. Pinterest. The growth in Pinterest has been very advanced of late. It was at one time the fastest growing dental social media channel, and today it has slowed down slightly, but still it holds a massive sway over women and over anything to do with fashion, retail, cosmetics. Very, very advanced. Next channel we're going to discuss is Instagram. Instagram is just the reverse, more men than women. It's mostly for younger people, Instagram, much younger people, and I haven't really analyzed how useful it is for dental, especially for a dental practice, but I would recommend it if you have, again, if you have the similar base as Pinterest, maybe it's useful. Otherwise, for images, Instagram is much more hot, especially if you have to send instant images. But we have to explore. I have not really explored the complete length of what Instagram can do. Yes, Dr. Yogesh, college students use it quite a lot. It's mostly younger crowd, much younger crowd. Again, celebrities use Instagram quite a lot. Right. Next is Facebook. Now, Facebook is about 100 million Indians plus on Facebook. Second largest country in the world. I mean, if Facebook was a country after India and China, actually Chinese are not on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. So after the US, we have the second largest population in the world on Facebook. And after India and China, it will be the third largest country. Now, Facebook is something that we have to analyze in much more detail. I feel that if you're not leveraging Facebook properly, you're missing out on a lot of things. Because Facebook is something that has, that has features that can really help us target people, target patients, create engagement. It has some amazing tools, and it is not that expensive. Remember, if you try spending on LinkedIn, it will break your bank because it's very expensive. But Facebook is relatively cheap. Running campaigns, generating awareness on Facebook is relatively easy. And as I said, it's the second largest country in the world. Second largest user base is in India, like in most of the other channels. Now, this gives you an idea about Facebook demographics. Do you notice that 0 to 17, 10%, almost the vast majority of our users are 18 to 24. But a quite interesting number is between 25 and 34, and then it drops between 35 and 44. Gives you a good idea again where your user base should be if you want to use Facebook. But in the metros, I think almost everybody has heard of it. A lot of them have accounts. They may not leverage it, but they definitely have these accounts. I think Facebook is a channel if we don't waste our time, reading updates. I heard that I saw interesting stats about Facebook. Uh, I heard that some psychologist once pointed out to me that he had done some survey on Facebook, and he found out that watching other people's vacation photographs, or other people enjoying themselves, is it causes some 75% of the people to be in misery. So 75% of the people get upset when they see pictures of others enjoying themselves on Facebook, and that's why he said Facebook was a very influential tool, because it influences you such a great extent that it can probably screw your mood as well. We have a question here. Okay, Dr. Yogesh says search for dentists on Facebook. Yeah, that is probably correct, but we are not talking about search as such. We are mostly talking about leveraging it to create awareness, engagement, conversations. So yeah, I don't think anybody searches for a dentist on Facebook. Who searches for anything on Facebook? I don't think anybody searches on Facebook as such. We still search on Google. But if your Facebook account does show up as one of those search entities, it is really useful for you, right? Okay. So we discussed any questions, any more comments before we move on to the next topic? So we've gone through almost all the channels. We've identified their advantages, disadvantages. I'm going to just give a few seconds before we move on. And how are we doing on time? We have half an hour more, right? If I'm not mistaken. Okay. So let's move into the last phase of our today's session. Now, after all this, you might be asking me, why social media? Why should I get into YouTube? Why should I get into Facebook? Why should I do this? Why should I do that? And the only reason I can give you why you should be on social media is because your patients are on social media. And it is very important for you to kind of assess what is your patient base, what is their composition, what are the demographics, which age group they belong to, what do they do for work, and that will give you a good idea of which channel to use for them. For example, one of the interesting things that a survey about YouTube videos found out that in India, movie trailers and movie clips were the most shared on YouTube. So that's an India-specific data. Globally, the numbers are slightly different, but for India, this is an interesting stat. Similarly, in India, for example, on Pinterest, bridal wear and bridal industry, the Indian wedding industry is very active on Pinterest. So biggest reason why you should be there is because your patients are there, and that is the first reason. The remaining is, we can think of millions of other reasons why you should be on social media, but I think today most of our patients are on social media in some form or the other, and that's why we need to be there. So let's look at some other reasons why you should be there. First of all, these are stats for 2014. I'm sure the data would have changed for 2015. There are 243 million internet users in India. The interesting thing about internet users in India is that vast majority of them do not use. Okay, Dr. Yogesh, you can't add patients on a Facebook. So Dr. Yogesh wanted to know, how can you add patients on your Facebook page? I explained this earlier. You can't add patients to your Facebook page. They have to like you. It's not like a profile. They have to like you, and we'll discuss Facebook pages in detail in one of our sessions. I think the next is on Twitter, and then we have Facebook. So the interesting thing about our internet usage base is that out of the 243 million, I think 70 to 80% don't have a PC. They don't have a personal computer. They don't have a desktop. They don't have a laptop. They don't even have a tablet because they use their phones for internet, right? And one of the most used application from the phone is social media. So you have a large captive base that leverages the mobile phone to see the internet and access social media. So your reach really goes up, especially when it comes to digital marketing. Your reach really goes up in India as compared to using traditional marketing, digital marketing that is using web optimization, SEO, etc. Because social media sites are already optimized, and you can leverage those sites, your reach increases tremendously. It is projected, and I'm sure these numbers would be wrong because you would have gone way beyond that. It is projected that our total internet usage would move up to 500 million people by 2018, and that will be more than, almost slightly less than half our population will be on the internet by that time, which is pretty fascinating if you ask me. So those are stats for India. First reason you should be on social media is because your patients are there. Second reason you should be on social media is because a lot of India is on the internet, and the most accessible form of internet is through mobile phone, and one of the most optimized sites on mobile phone are social media sites. Number second. Now when you talk about mobile penetration, there is about 220 million people today use the phone to access the internet, and out of which 92 million people are active on social media and they access it via their phone. So mobility plays a big role why you should be on social, right? Next stat. Now this is an interesting stat, especially for those of you who feel, okay, this is used by teenagers, this is used by youngsters. What we have realized is that a lot of individuals today are influenced by their children, and children today are very social media savvy. So there are numerous cases when I hear of, I mean, I have not heard of it in a dental scenario, but I've heard it in a medical scenario where you know, some people chose a different doctor because their kids went online and searched on that doctor and found some information on them, or the kids went online and looked up an internet website of a hospital and felt that that hospital was better than the other hospital and influenced their patients to go to that hospital. I don't know if any of you have faced a situation like this in your dental practice, but do you see children as big influencers on how patients select their dentist? Yes, Dr. Sanjogita says that you treat the children well, the whole family is your patient, and that's very true, and that's a very even. Okay, Dr. Yogesh also has that they have kids who ask their patients to come here. So now that changes the equation slightly. So far, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Dr. Yogesh Pandit says that they find his practice very friendly. So far we've been talking about where's your patient base? Where is your patient base? Is your patient base going to corporate India? Then LinkedIn. Is your patient base in this age group? Okay, then Perio is a factor. Or is your patient base slightly above 60? Then you probably don't need Facebook because there are hardly any 60-year-olds on Facebook. The 60-year-olds may not be on Facebook, but their grandkids are, their kids are, and they are big influencers. The children and youngsters are very big influencers today, and they determine where you go and sometimes even determine your dental decisions or medical decisions. So sometimes I feel that we oversimplify this entire issue of where my patient is, but we forget that every patient is an individual and is influenced by other individuals, and he might find doctors who are very useful. How to influence children who don't come to us? Okay, it's a very interesting statement. I think the important thing is, I mean, how to engage these kids, right? and how to make it feel. I mean, children are a lot about what is cool and what is friendly and what is hot, and they want to be there. So obviously your practice has to live up to that reputation of being very trendy, hot kind of practice, and that's when kids would like it. I used to remember when I was a child, I had this pediatrician, and he was very savvy. He was very savvy, and he will talk all cool things, and he'll know everything um, about the stuff that kids talk about. He used to talk about Star Trek and He-Man and all that jazz, and I was always keen to go to him. I would never change my pediatrician, to an extent that when he moved from very close to our house to far away, I had to force my dad to drive all the way there and take me to him. So you know, kids are very big influencers, but this is a pediatrician. But I think sometimes the children even influence where the adults go. Um, okay. Even how to target the patients, children who do not come to us. Yeah, I mean, you have to create some form of an engagement mechanism, either through your social media presence or through your website, and we can discuss that. But essentially, you know, influencing children or influencing youngsters is a lot about being trendy and being cool. You know, for example, they might find somebody on, if a dentist is on Twitter, they might find it cool. Or if a dentist is on Facebook, or if the dentist has a very cool video, they might find him cool. So children like things like that. I think overall the perception of the youth is to go more towards things that is cool, as opposed to the old boring kind of things. At this stage, any other questions? So I got this comment. I don't know who is it from. In my case, I'm a part of a group called Chembur Group. There is some posted, please recommend a dentist in Chembur. The post got 27 comments. One of my patients who also recommended my name, and the person who posted on Facebook eventually came to me. So, oh, that's from Dr. Mayur himself. So very interesting. So if Dr. Mayur is a very famous dentist in Chembur, now we all know that. And if you can send a tweet on that, Dr. Mayur, I think you'll become even more famous. But this is the kind of engagement I'm talking about. Someone who recommends his name in Chembur. One thing I forgot to mention, or I think I did mention to some extent. See, social media you should focus your social media efforts on creating local awareness. See, dental practices are essentially set up to service the local patients, local community. Nobody's going to travel like 5 hours to come to you, or 3 hours to come to you. There are cases that happens, but vast majority of your patients are pretty local. So as long as you keep your Facebook, your social media activities locally focused, it will be very useful. Right. So Dr. Darshita is from Chembur too, and so Dr. Mayur, you should have put her in your group too. I hope she is in that group. And Dr. Moyes says that Dr. Mayur is famous everywhere. Oh, really? Dr. Sangeeta, I'm not getting your question. You want to connect your Practo account to your Facebook account for appointment. Now, the biggest challenge between using, not yet. Okay, you should join the Chembur group then. Okay, so one question I have is, you know, when you say Practo account to have a link on your Facebook page, I think that is possible. I mean, they won't allow you to. Yeah, I think it is possible. Yeah, I don't see a major challenge there. To a page, yes, because you always have this option of giving a website link for your page, and you can give a Practo appointment page for you as one of the links. So I think that is possible, yes. All right, so we have about 10 minutes. I mean, you can always give your Practo account link as one of the links on your Facebook page. It is possible. Okay, Mayur recommends that you should reach out to the Practo Help Center. Okay, Practo has a button for FB. Very good. All right, so you can thank Mayur later. He has done all your homework. All right, so let's try to recap what all we have done. We have looked at some stats for dentists going back. Sorry. Right. We have looked at some stats for dentists. We've understood what are the major challenges. We've tried to look at some of the social channels. We have understood some of the challenges that you are facing, especially through your questions. And going forward, obviously, we will try to answer some of those questions. We will try to understand how to create a very localized strategy for you that works for your practice based on where your patients are and what they want. Now finally, I want to leave you with this thought, right? Now why should you be on social media? If nothing else convinces you, this should. If you are not on social media, maybe you have a friendly neighborhood competition dentist who's on social media. Just like the Chembur group where Dr. Mayur has been dominating and hogging all the dental inquiries. So if you are not on social, I'm 100% sure your competition is on social. If they get onto social and are perceived to be cooler than you, more savvy than you, more technology. See, somehow in India we still feel if somebody is on Facebook, he's very he's very savvy, right? It's not like, oh, he knows a lot. Yeah. So in case you're not there and your friendly neighborhood competition is there, you run the risk of some kid telling his parent, you know what, that other dentist has a Facebook account, let's go to him. So my advice to you is, if you're not there, your competition is there, you run the risk of being looked at as obsolete, right? See, a lot of times you might have the most modern gadgets, you might have the best practice, you might have imported chairs, you might be using lasers, you might be using LED light cures, you might be using advanced composites, porcelain. It doesn't matter because others don't know. Unless they come into your clinic, they won't know. Word of mouth, one of the challenges, earlier we used to get a lot of patients by word of mouth. Today, where is the time for anybody to talk to anybody? Who talks to whom? You have better chances of your word spreading through Facebook than somebody talking about it, right? So always remember that if you're not doing it, then somebody else is doing it, and then somebody else might get more business than you. One last advice before we wind for today. Obviously, creating a profile is the easiest job. I think a vast majority of us have it. Engagement is what is tough. How to engage, how to continuously engage, how to keep on communicating. And different, dentists have different philosophies on that. I know of some dentists, not dentists actually, I know of some medical practitioners who have hired part-time interns to run their social media strategy, to run their social media channels. Some doctors I know have hired now, they don't hire the stereotypical receptionist, but they hire somebody slightly more social media savvy who does part-time, does the social media things. Some people have outsourced it to agencies, and some people have learned themselves and picked up stuff. Yeah, Dr. Sanjogita, you're right. How to keep it interesting. Very true. Biggest challenge we face. And then the engagement leads to growth. Growth, increase in following, etc. So it's a three-stage process. I think vast majority of us are in stage 1 or stage 2, except Dr. Yogesh, I think, who's on stage 4, beyond stage 3. But for the rest of us, we are somewhere between stage 1 and stage 2. I think social is a great channel if you leverage it properly, if you do the right things. You will definitely see an upside. You will definitely see a delta plus increase in your following. At this stage, at this moment, I want to end the webinar now, unless somebody has questions which I can take. Otherwise, we will probably meet next Friday. Any questions? Mayur, any questions? Okay, very good point, Dr. Sanjogita. How much time will it take? So once you've set up your profiles, once you've optimized them, in my opinion, you should not spend more than 10 to 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes per per day. And I don't want to discuss. I don't want to talk about production time in case of videos, which can be slightly longer. But basic, taking a photograph, uploading it. I don't think that you should spend more than 10 to 15 minutes in a day, right? And maybe slightly more on the weekend. And so Dr. Yogesh is asking how much to invest in a Facebook marketing campaign. No fixed limit. What is your objective, and who do you want to reach out? So Facebook, you can target by age groups, you can target by locations. And if you feel you're launching a new service or you are doing something very different which you want people to find out, you want it to spread, then obviously it makes sense. Keep it as local as possible, because if you're sitting in Bombay and you're targeting somebody in Delhi, they're not going to come to Bombay to get a treatment done. It happens in some cases, but those are like exceptions and not the rule. So usually, so the rule of thumb for marketing budgets is people invest anywhere between 1 to 5% of their revenue, right, on marketing. 1 to 5% of the revenue on marketing. So if you are getting 100 bucks, 5 rupees is the maximum you spend on marketing, and out of that 5%, digital marketing budgets are anywhere between 20 to 30%. So you can estimate how much you should spend on digital marketing, and then a smaller subset that you'll have what do you say, on social media. So it's marketing, digital marketing, social media. Social media is a small subset. What will we discuss next time? So I think according to plan we had a hands-on lab on Twitter, but let me go through the transcripts today. We'll anyway communicate what we want to. So these are all, from now on, they're all hands-on labs where we'll discuss. We'll go into we will go into each social media channel and we'll explore it to the greatest extent possible. Aparna, if you have a personal profile on Facebook and have a profile page through that, if we invite patients to visit our professional page, can they see personal page? No, they can't see your personal page. They can't see personal page. And anyway, you can always restrict who can view your page. On a serious note, you can restrict. There are security restrictions. We'll go through that when I discuss Facebook. A lot of us don't take it seriously, but you can restrict a lot of things. Dr. Darshita, is Just Dial? No, ma'am. Just Dial is not considered social media from any angle. What good question. Dinesh, thanks a lot, Dinesh. It was really fun. I had good time. Some very interesting perspectives came out. WhatsApp, yes, WhatsApp is definitely social media. WhatsApp is considered social media, but it's more like a messaging service it's not technically social, but WhatsApp has groups, very effective for coordinating for events, things like that. So yeah, I would say great tool. Great. So, Dr. Mayur, thanks a lot. I think we have no further questions. We are almost at the top of the 4 p.m. mark. So we'll close it for today. It was great speaking to you, and let's catch up next week, and we will communicate what we're going to discuss next week. Please keep the engagement coming, keep the questions coming. If you think of any other ideas over this week, send them to me or send them to Mayur, and he can forward them to me. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a great weekend ahead.